So, Brian, tell me why you decided to come and address a bunch of clergy from the Church of England.
Well, there are a range of answers. The first one, of course, is I was asked by Bishop Nick, and so I said yes immediately. One of the reasons for that is intellectual curiosity. Actually, I mean, as the reason the session we've been in is about cosmology. So we've been talking about what is my lecture was what is the current state of the art in our understanding of the evolution of the universe, and even speculation about the origin of the universe. And we went on to discuss the idea of the possible existence of multiple universes, possibly an infinity of universes. So that's cutting-edge cosmology. But of course, I am interested in what does that mean if that turns out to be correct. And this is right at the edge of our current understanding. But let's say it turns out that there are an infinite number of universes. So all possibilities of the mixtures of the laws of nature exist. In some universes there'll be stars and galaxies, in others there won't. What does that mean? Well, meaning is something that scientists alone are not qualified to extract from the world. This is where art and music and philosophy and theology live, and not only have a role to play, but are essential. They're essential components of that discussion. What do these discoveries that we make mean? How are we to respond to them as human beings? So and I've always been intellectually interested in that question. So that's primarily what we're talking about here.
So where does that wonder, that curiosity, where does that abut with the Church of England and God?
Well, I think that obviously, if you look back throughout history, culturally, then these questions first arose, I think, in a religious context, or certainly were first rigorously explored, and that exploration written down. It is obviously part of but I'll be careful when I say that, because of course you go back 400 or 500 years, and I think these delineations between the disciplines didn't really exist. We're just talking about exploring, asking questions about origins, and also though about the meaning of the things we discover about nature. So I think that naturally it seems to me that it's part of the tradition of the church, and part of the tradition of different religious beliefs across the world. It's part of the tradition is to address questions. Creation stories are common across virtually every culture. Every geographical corner of the world where you find human beings, you find creation stories. So that tells you something about what it means to be human. Actually, so that's one intersection. The other thing, though, which sits above that and is, I think, more important in the current context, is that something that worries me immensely about Britain and the world is that there's a polarisation of debate, and you see it in politics, you see it in the interaction between religions, and also the interaction between religion and the secular world. You see it all over the place. There seems to be a driving apart of people with different views, and a ghettoisation of different worldviews. And the analogy I would draw is with a multi-party democracy. So it is obvious that, I think anyway from my perspective, most people in Britain would agree that multi-party democracy is the best way we've found to run a country. Now there are people that disagree with that, but I think that would be the majority view. That implies that you accept and celebrate the fact that there are people with whom you disagree in the country. You have to. If you're a Conservative voter, you can't be entirely terrible from the perspective of a Labour supporter if the Labour supporter accepts the fact they want a multi-party democracy. So this idea that there's this lot over here and this lot over here and this lot over there, and we disagree, and it gets more and more ghettoised, and you get a louder sort of argument, I think is toxic. So for me, the idea that I would be able to have this rather entertaining and enjoyable afternoon discussing these issues with people with whom I suppose I have to say I disagree at the most fundamental level, because I don't have a particular faith, or any faith in fact. However, that I think that difference of opinion and view of the world is to be celebrated and explored. And it's just, I think, a fundamental principle of the way that we interact together. So there's also, as I said, the main reason I'm here is because I wanted to come because I think it's enjoyable and a nice thing to do. But there's also, if I think about it a little bit more deeply, it's absolutely key that people with different worldviews talk to each other and enjoy talking to each other and celebrate the fact there are people with different worldviews. So there's a deeper reason as well.
That's a lovely answer. Tell me, if there was one single message that you would like the people sitting here today to take away with them from what you've said, what would that be? What would you hope that would be?
Well, you know, and I think we're just about to go into the Q&A session now, so I'll probably say it to see what the reaction is. But I once said that I think, first of all, I think it's the fundamental principle in science is that we start from a position of ignorance. Richard Feynman, the very famous Nobel Prize-winning scientist, called science a satisfactory philosophy of ignorance. Mm-hmm. So we start from that position, and that means that we take delight in being shown to be wrong, and furthermore, we do not assume that we're right. So there's no room for dogmatic positions in science. And I think, actually, that most people... I have a friend in the church who I won't name, but he once said to me, maybe he wouldn't mind if I name it, but he once said to me, I said, do you ever have these times when you worry about your faith? And he said, do you have brief moments of doubt? And he said, I have brief moments of faith. He said, and so I think it's that idea that...
do you have brief moments of doubt?
Well, I don't doubt in a context of. I mean, I honestly, this is the honest answer, right? I don't class myself, and I hate the label as atheist. I don't like partly because of what I've just said, that I don't like the ghettoisation of thought and of worldview. I think it's entirely toxic to ghettoise. So I don't like that label. And the honest position is I don't think about it. It has not occurred to me and would not have occurred to me. So I really don't have it's something that I don't consider very much. So and that's an honest answer. So I've not sat down and had a very long think about the origin of the universe and come to any particular conclusion. I've just sat there and been interested in astronomy from the age of something like 4 or 5 years old, as far back as I can remember, and just that's the way my interest is. So I think it's I go back maybe. I think I go back to this point. I think what I'm beginning to suspect, and I think about it more, is that the positioning of people into units of different worldviews, a finite number of them actually, very few of them, this is just not the way to proceed. And I think you can see it in discourse, particularly in Britain at the moment, both political and otherwise. You see that tendency to pigeonhole people, and that this group here, and there's this lot, and there's this lot, and they all have names. There's the Brexiteers, and the Remainers, and the Corbynistas, and the whatever. And that's, I think, to be regretted. And actually, not only to be regretted, but to be pushed back against.
Can you tell me, in a short answer, Aaron, what does wonder mean to you?
In a short answer, I think wonder is noticing that there's something beautiful and worth exploring about nature, and that's the act of wonder, and then you go off to explore it in whatever way you choose. Actually, you can be scientific about it and try and dig down, and that's one way of getting to a deeper understanding. And I would say it's if you really want to understand how a blade of grass works, then the only way you're going to do it is by doing some science on it. I would say you won't do it by contemplating it, but there are responses to the universe. So we're sitting in front of a piece of art there. Art is a response. Music is a response. Theology and philosophy are responses. But the initial act of being interested and noticing something that's worth exploring is what I would define as wonder, and that's common.
That's lovely. Thank you.